I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Welcome to the Q&A, everyone. If you listen to Tuesday's show, Campfire Talk, our good friend Justin Mark is with us with this particular segment, and he's got questions. So we decided to, since Tom isn't with us, he's still battling complications from his chemo treatment. So we wish him well, of course, and our prayers are with him. But so let's go ahead and start. Justin, I know you have a list of questions for us.
Sure. Excuse me. So I guess I was just wondering if, based on sightings, both daytime and night, if we hear a lot of talk about them being nocturnal, I was wondering how much evidence there is for that, or do you think they're active both day and night, if it's equal?
Apparently they're somewhat diurnal, which means they can operate in both night and day. But here's my thought, and this is based on witness testimony, and this particular story was from Bob Titmus. Titmus had gone into the Bluff Creek area, not far from where Patterson got the film, several years prior to 1967, and got too far back in there away from his vehicle. So instead of trying to find his way out after dark and possibly breaking a leg and dying from hypothermia, he decided to hunker down for the night and wait for daylight to make his way back to his vehicle. So he lay down in a shallow depression, covered himself with leaves and other things around the ground, all but his face, and he woke up around what he estimated around 1 a.m. By a large creature, and then later it proved out to be actually the same creature that Patterson filmed in 1967 based on the footprints. But the creature, had it been truly nocturnal, it could have seen him in the dark, but it didn't. It could smell him, but it couldn't find him, and apparently tore the area up and made screamed and made a real ruckus, but it couldn't find him, thankfully for him. But that tells me that they're not totally nocturnal because of that. But because of when the sightings occur, a lot of times it's plus or minus an hour of sunset and the same of sunrise. So that's when the game animals are moving. In the evening, they're heading down to their feeding areas. In the morning, they're heading back up to their bedding areas. So the predators are going to be following the game animals. And I think that's the real basis for them being active during those time periods, which could lend itself to people saying, well, they're nocturnal because, that's right around dusk or sunrise. What do you think, Forrest?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she must be on mute again. Are you there, Forrest?
I've done it again. Yeah, I'm here.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, repeat the question.
Go ahead, Justin.
Sure.
I'm
just
sorry.
wondering. That's okay.
I was actually thinking about something else. I'm sorry. Oh God, I'm embarrassed now.
Yeah, I was just wondering, based on, I don't know, you hear a lot about nighttime sightings with truck drivers and things like that. So I guess there's a preconceived idea that they're strictly nocturnal. I don't know. And then Will was just describing their diurnal behaviors as well. I guess there's a correlation between their activity and the activity of the game animals, such as deer. If there's a connection there.
Well, yeah, and most of your predator animals do their hunting in the early morning hours and like dawn, just right at dawn, pre-dawn, and then early evening and such as that. And I think that it would be could be based on the movement of, and I know it is around here, on the movement of the deer and such as that. Now, I think, now this is just my own idea, why you might have a more, I'm not so sure that Bigfoot's behavior has always been nighttime hunting, which we see a lot and we hear a lot about. I think that maybe that might have changed. I don't know, and Will, you jump in here and correct me if you, whatever you might think, but I think that it might have changed because of the interaction with human activity. And I believe they have had this happen with the chimpanzee populations in the Congo regions, where they've had so much fighting and rebellion over there because they were hunting the chimpanzees for bushmeat. And so the chimpanzees just completely changed their behavior. And I mean, just like, you know, you're talking about a sentient animal that has that has a big brain, and they're going to change their behavior, and it's not going to be something that's going to have to take 100 years for it to happen, but can be done pretty quickly. And that's what has happened over there. The chimpanzees have just completely done an about face, and they don't hunt, they don't forage for food during the daytime hours now. They forage at nighttime to avoid any type of interaction or contact with humans. So,
I would say it partly depends on the region they're in, because in this part of the country,
well, exactly,
you know, like you mentioned, and I brought up earlier that, and we've seen that, we saw it in the field a number of times where, you know, the deer would be moving down right around dusk from their bedding areas to their feeding areas. And then in the morning, you know, near sunrise, they're leaving those areas and heading back up to their bedding areas. So the predators are going to be following the game. But then again, it depends on the region, you know, and the lay of the land and what they're feeding on. And I think what you're mentioning there about human interaction, that definitely plays a role in that. Or I should say the lack of intervention, because previously, you know, maybe they shifted more nighttime, like you said, because of, you know, human activity in an area. But since our behavior has changed a great deal, maybe they're more often than they used to be in the daytime, and then going closer to humans because, you know, we're an easy source of food.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I can't say as we can't speak to as of what they did previous to white people landing in here in the Americas. Now we can only go by the legends that the Native Americans tell us about, but I can't foresee that they would not, if the opportunity arose, that they would probably hunt in the open daylight.
You know, one of the things
they're opportunistic hunter.
One of the things native sources used to say, though, was, and one of them really, it always struck me, was they would advise to stay out of the areas at night and never go in the valleys. If you had to be out there at night, you'd stay on the ridge tops, and that connects directly to deer movements, because the deer bed up higher in the daytime, you know, so they can smell when the air is moving up, they can smell predators approaching. And then they go down the valleys at night to eat, so the predators are coming behind them.
Well, and out here in Texas, now you're going to have the deer are only going to be moving in the cool hours of the day, which is going to be at dusk and dawn,
right.
and then at night. And so I think that makes a lot of difference here. And
it does.
It's like you said, it's going to depend on the location. I mean, you've got a big hairy animal with a lot of mass and everything. It expends more energy if it's having to move around in the heat of the day versus the cool of the night.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah,
that makes a big difference.
I think a lot of it, you know, we have anecdotal stories to go by, and based on the time frames that they've given, which aren't maybe as accurate as we'd like to have. So I think we need a lot more information, documented times and map that according to regions to see what's happening here versus over here. And, maybe there's a difference. Some of the stuff is just kind of put out there hodgepodge fashion. So, we don't really have the stats to go by. But at least we have a lot of these stories to say. For the most part, these later hours or very early hours of activity. But I'd go back to like the Bob Titmus story, not truly nocturnal because they'd see much better in the dark, and they apparently don't see as well in the dark as people might think they do. Because the Sasquatch that was there with Bob Titmus couldn't see him. You could smell him, but it didn't know where he was. And if it had been, truly nocturnal eyesight, it would have found him.
Do we have any example of strictly nocturnal primates, or maybe small monkeys? I don't know, tarsiers or something like that, or maybe forest would. That'd
be a new forest.
Well, your tarsiers, they're your lower simians tend to be nocturnal, and you notice that they have the huge eyes.
Right.
And they actually, you hear some people talking about seeing reflection off of Bigfoot's eyes, and I think I've talked about this.
I've seen it myself.
Lucidum that.
Oh no, I've seen it myself first.
Yeah. Well, I know. I've never seen it, but I've never seen it for a fact. But I've seen some eye shine in the woods here, and I never knew what exactly it was. But I certainly had a pretty good idea what it was. But the thing about it is you only see that. You only see that in the lower order simians, and your tarsiers and such as that. They will put off have a slight reflection, but there are no other primates that that have eye shine. So
I wonder
and what you see when you see humans. That's not considered eye shine when you see red eye in photographs.
I wonder,
right?
Since a lot of the primate species, I guess, would be newer variations, maybe of their archaic selves, would have developed that out of their system, not needing it. Whereas something like the Sasquatch, which is probably a much older species, maybe when we don't know, if more archaic species had that ability, but I suppose it's possible.
Well, I think we talked about this before too. That Bigfoot seems to show and exhibit some archaic features combined with modern features. So,
right.
I mean, they're kind of an enigma as far as their features. Let's face it.
Yeah, I would think some of those things they retained
as being. Yeah, I guess it's retained if it's necessary.
Right.
I guess that's the way that you would put it. If a species finds something necessary, it's usually retained. It's something that they use all the time.
All right, Justin, what do you got next?
Okay. Well, I guess that dovetails actually pretty well into what I was going to ask. So, in relation to their eyes, you get a lot of reports that talk about, they had a bright red eye glow. So,
well, here's the thing.
I guess that begs the question: is it?
Here's the thing with color.
Bioluminescence or reflectivity?
Well, it's not bioluminescence, but and the color of reflectivity depends on the light source a great deal. Now, when you look back at all of Green's reports, I think he told me out of all of his reports with eye shine that red was only reported 7 times. The rest of the time it was amber. And that's what I've seen is amber. So red, and it's funny the things the media picked up on. They picked up on red eye shine, which is very low in number. They picked up on smell, which is also very low in number. I mean, I've been within 20 feet of the doggone things and didn't smell anything. But I have smelled the odor one time. And I think that's more out of them being excited and excreting that odor rather than it being a constant. But the media picked up on some of those things as, they were the main bullet points when they do a story on Bigfoot, and in reality, those aren't common features.
Well,
Like they'll latch.
Go ahead
the eye
first.
shine too will it can be affected. The color of the eye shine, can be affected by the amount of zinc that the animal consumes too in its diet. That will actually
Right.
affect the color of the eye shine. And I did not know that. I had to look that up several months ago because we were actually had a show and somebody was asking about eye shine, and I thought, I better look this up. So because I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah,
but I do agree with you that it could be based on the type of light. We have so many different types of spotlights and stuff that they make now, and I think that does make a difference.
Well,
in,
Tom and I talked about
and
it.
how you pick up.
Yeah,
I
Tom,
know when we were camping. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that when Tom and I were talking about it privately once, quite a while ago, he reached out to some different sources, light manufacturers and such, to talk about it, and some wildlife people, and that's the conclusion they come up with was the light source can change, depending on what the light source is, can change the coloration. Go ahead, Milo.
Well, I know when we were camping and we had campfires, and it was pretty big too. So I mean, but it was flickering all kinds of stuff, and I didn't see no red, but I think it was. I know it was more like a yellow, greenish kind of thing. But
Right.
I know I didn't smell nothing because the campfire was like masking everything from the smoke.
Yeah, none of us smelled anything. And you actually saw the creature.
At least we didn't talk about it anyway.
I don't remember smelling. I mean, and to me, the smoke wasn't that heavy where, yeah, it did cover, we could smell the smoke. But, I tell you what, from smelling these things once, it would have overpowered us. I mean, my buddy Jack and I just about threw up when we walked into that wall of stink. And then it was gone moments later. So it was something live there that was emitting that odor. We would have noticed it, but you were within 10 feet of that creature, so yeah, there was nothing that any of us was smelled.
Other than who.
Okay, Justin. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was just gonna say, I was looking at pictures of gorillas I mentioned in the campfire talk, but I've just noticed how you get reports of the red eyes, how gorillas' eyes are very amber red. I don't know if there's something similar going on with Bigfoot.
Well,
but
and
it's just an interesting.
Justin, I actually mentioned that once before. Well, if you remember that chimpanzees, and you get up close to a gorilla and you get up close to a chimpanzee, their eyes are kind of some have dark brown, yes, but then there's a lot of them that have this kind of a reddish brown color to them. They actually look from a distance they can look kind of like they're red. Now you get into your macaques, and they all have these beautiful hazel eyes, almost sometimes going to a green, almost looking like they have green eyes. But they have brown eyes. Let's face it. There's variations of the brown, and you get close to them, and their eyes are actually exhibit this reddish brown color. And I think that maybe people looking at them might, say, "Oh, they had red eyes."
Right, their
which they really
interpretation.
don't have red eyes. It's just a reddish brown. Yeah.
That's something too when you question a witness.
It's also when they get mad, their face turns purple too.
Yeah.
I mean, when they get mad, they actually, because they start blushing, and underneath that skin, with gorillas especially, they can look purple.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people when people
gorillas?
interview witnesses, they don't. They too often they ask leading questions, and when you interview people, you should never ask leading questions, because the witness might be inclined to want to answer the question the way they think you want it answered, instead of getting raw data from them. So, you can question people in a way where you get to the bottom more closely. Like, for instance, eye color. You could provide. I used to take a little show and tell book with me where I have lots of different pictures of things in there, and I would ask the witness, well, what you saw, was it more like this, or was it like this, or was it something different? Where they had to provide the answer. I wasn't asking anything in particular, just what what you saw? What was it like? And I seem to get better answers that way, and much more clarified answers. Because their own interpretation.
I think that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah, I think like you said, their interpretation, Forrest, if they, they saw something, that was what they felt was a certain color, when it may have been just more their perception versus, the actual coloration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't lead with, were the eyes this or that color? You would lead with, can you tell me something about the eyes?
Exactly.
So they're not coming in with, I assume they want to hear this, so I'll answer this way.
Exactly.
To make it seem more credible or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's something we learned in our psychology courses was, when you talk to somebody, if you want to get to, and it was about diagnosing. So you wouldn't want to lead questions because, if you're perceived, whether you are or not, oftentimes if you're the interviewer, they perceive you as a person sort of in authority. So as humans, being social animals, we want to, please people in authority for the most part. So, unconsciously, that's what a lot of people do. If they're being interviewed by somebody, and if you ask a leading question, well, they're going to fall right in line because they want to be accepted. They want to be, especially by this person they perceive as in charge and all of that kind of stuff. So, if you want good raw data, you never want to ask leading questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Went off on a tangent there, sorry.
I guess, I have couple other questions.
Sure, ask away.
I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Ancient Mysteries documentary narrated by Leonard Nimoy. That one. Bigfoot one was really good. Yeah.
Ancient
So I watched.
Mysteries.
Yeah, it was like the A&E documentary. Came out like some time ago. It's pretty old. But in the documentary, they're theorizing about whether or not the Sasquatch migrates up and down the Pacific Northwest from state to state in like a nomadic fashion. So I was just wondering if you have any thoughts on that, their mode of travel? Or...
A lot of people throw around that term migration. And I guess it requires a little more scrutiny because now that would imply that there's a small population and they're just moving from one region to a vastly different region, right? What I found, now they will move quite a distance, but for them it might not be that big a distance because Milo, you and I know from being in the Army, you can do a 20-mile road march in a relatively short amount of time. Especially if they get your butts running. But, so for a Sasquatch, something that has, that's larger and can move faster and has a much longer stride. And here's an example. In Bluff Creek, they found, I think they identified 6 different individuals in that area over the decade of, let's say from, the late 50s, from 58 to 68. There were 6 individuals identified, and they can be identified by their footprints because they're unique, just like ours are. So they found this one particular 15-inch track one year, and I think it was probably 63 or so. And in the next year, they found it 150 miles south of there. Now, did it migrate, or was that part of its range? When I studied a group in southern Washington for a dozen years, that group a group of 4 individuals occupied a range of over 3,300 square miles. It wasn't migrating. They would simply move from feeding area to feeding area about every 30 days. And when you read about gorillas, I remember I picked up on this because at the time I was given a copy of Diane Fossey's book, Gorillas in the Mist, for Christmas. And I thought, well, I wonder if they do something similar. So as I started collecting all this information And coming up with this idea, I started being able to go these places, and within a 30-day time frame, I'd find evidence of the creatures being there. Then after, a decade, I was able to piece together their movements throughout that range. And it was a pretty accurate, I could get within 30 days where they were going to be. So.
Well, elk, they do the same thing. So
Right.
That would be a potential food source, right?
Yeah. And when you look at.
In a way.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they follow the big herds around. You bet. So, when you look at African lions, they kind of do the same thing. They'll go long distances, and they have particular patterns that they do. And it's not necessarily, I don't think, migration, like, say, big herd animals do. But, they go to their different feeding areas that they know what's going to be there at certain times.
Yeah. I was actually reading, I'm a bit of a lion geek, so I'm reading a book on them now. But the leading biologist is saying that lions will go to where the rivers come together in a confluence.
Right.
So that, I guess, water and prey has a lot to do with where they would travel as well. So
exactly. And like,
even if it is
because prey has to find water.
And like with the Sasquatch, it's kind of smart. Same with gorillas, is like they won't deplete the food in an area. And what they do, now let's say, okay, let's take a look at this 3,000 square mile area I was talking about. And let's just pick one spot. Let's say they're going to be in an area in April. Okay. Now, they don't come to one specific place every time of that 30-day time frame. They might be, let's say in the southeast part of that one year. The next year, they might be in the northwest side. They change it within that sub area that they come to every 30-day time period. So it kind of throws the prey animals off. So, and they'll leave. They leave typically about after 14 days because that's when the game animals are kind of aware of their presence. So then they become scarce. So they'll change up those areas, but it also throws off their predators. It's one reason it's so hard for us to find them, is because they change up what they're doing so often. They'll come to the same region, but they'll be in a different place each year. It's actually pretty smart.
Actually, there was a Monster Quest episode. I'm sure you're all familiar with the show. It was actually in northern Ontario, the same province I'm in. There were sightings in one place at a certain time of the year. And then the sightings were also occurring the same time the following year. But the location was slightly different because they realized they were going and getting the berries, the blueberry bushes.
Mm-hmm.
But the following year, they weren't in season and weren't ripe at the right time, so they weren't found in the exact same areas.
Yeah, see, they're intimately aware of
their. They would find them there.
Yeah, they know all about their ranges and what's available when and all that. So, yeah, they're pretty smart animals, actually.
I like the part where you said seasons. So a lot of it to do with weather and timing of what part of the year they're at, right?
Sure, that can have an effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, in wintertime, you're not going to find berries, are you?
No, you're gonna follow where the game.
That's more like a springtime thing,
right? You got to think, okay, well, what's available during winter months?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really ingenious.
All right, Justin, do you have any more questions, or?
I do. How much time do we have? Are we going for?
Oh, we can go ahead and answer your questions.
So?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. Actually, this one's for Forrest, or if any of you have had a close encounter. I was just wondering. I don't know. I've always been interested in what their faces really look like up close.
I could tell you what my face looked like when I saw one.
Yeah, sure. There you go. Go ahead, Milo.
It was a underwear changing moment for me, and I swear to God, my mouth was like, it was like I was trying to grab for Will, and look, it was So my face looked.
Milo jumped like 2 feet in the air, and he yelled, "Oh, bleep!" Bleep wasn't the word, sorry.
I'm sure it was warranted, yeah.
But
well, Forrest, you can answer.
I
She's
didn't
laughing.
have
Something
maybe I
good's
should
coming.
have an. I didn't have an underwear changing moment, but I'm surprised. But I think I don't know why. But anyway, when I looked out that window, Justin, the way that window in the cabin is, they're not real big windows. And this was after my house had burned down, so I was living in this cabin. Excuse me, I am so sorry. And when I looked out initially, it was all black, and it shouldn't have been out that window. And when I finally was able to kind of get my focusing in, I can remember the huge pecks on it. I mean, it reminded me of a gorilla's chest, to be honest with you. The skin was dark. The hair was, I deemed it to be black. Of course, this is all in the dark, and all I'm looking at is with ambient light. And when it actually, I couldn't see the head. The head was actually up near the eaves to the cabin, but he was shaking the air conditioner. And all I did was just look out, and I saw this huge chest there and all the hair and such. And it wasn't until he kind of stepped back, and he immediately made a turn and faced right. And I could tell it had a flat face. It didn't have there wasn't a lot of nasal prognathism like you would see on a gorilla or a chimpanzee or anything like that. It was flat faced. But he never turned around and looked at me, because at that point in time, when I initially saw him and realized what I was looking at, I started beating on the wall with the stock of my shotgun. And I think I told you guys I'd actually had a thought about going out on the front porch there and firing it off, but then I got to thinking, no, that may be what he's wanting me to do. So there could be another one waiting around the corner to grab me. So who knows? But anyway, when he walked off, and he never turned around. And that was really, I mean, I'll be honest with you, the only thing that kind of disappointed me about the whole situation, I would have loved to have been able to see the face. And that was probably the most important thing to me. But it walked past my white F-350. And that's when I saw it in silhouette. And of course, then, you guys made fun of me because I remarked about the big butt and there's huge shoulders on the thing. And I'll be honest with you, the thing was, the shoulders and the head were way above the top of my cab of my truck. So this thing had to be every bit of 8 feet tall. But the face was very flat. There was no nasal prognathism or anything. There was no muzzle out there like you see in gorillas or chimpanzees, or in fact in any other primates. Had a very flat human-like face, and the head was not. It was large, very large, but it wasn't conical like you hear of. There wasn't a big crest on the skull. So I would be real interested in. I wonder sometimes if they have a sagittal crest like you see in the gorillas. And I think the only one of the chimpanzees that actually exhibit a crest like that is the billy apes.
Justin, so, I've got a witness that we talked to not too long ago. That's a really good close-up facial witness. I'll put you in touch with.
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah. Forrest, is this the same one with the can of beans or something, or a different Bigfoot?
Oh no, this
something to do with
this occurred first with the air conditioner. I said, first they're trying to steal my damn air conditioner, then they come in and they're trying to steal my food. No, the occurrence with the can of beans was like I guess it was about 2 or 3 months later. And that's when y'all were talking about smell. I did pick up a smell in the cabin at that point in time. It was a real, and I alluded to it as being a musty, urine-y smell. And of course, Tom popped in and said, "Oh, you just didn't change your cat litter that night." I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I did." But it did. It was a real musty, urine smell. And I have been around gorillas, and I've been around chimpanzees and macaques, and I never picked up. They do have an odor. Everything has an odor. I don't care what you say. They do have. I never found them to be particularly smelled bad. Now the males will exude a smell when they get excited.
And I think Bigfoot does that too.
Like really, really bad body. It smells like really, really bad BO, like they hadn't bathed in a long time. And that's what I perceive it as. Now somebody else might think it smells like something else, but that's what I thought it smelled like. But I did not smell that kind of smell in the house. It was just kind of a musty, almost a doggy smell.
That group in your area, we're going to have to nickname them the Klepto Group.
A dirty dog.
We're going to have to call them the Klepto Group. They keep taking stuff at your place.
The Klepto?
The Klepto Group. The Klepto Gang.
You could write a whole new book just on that.
I know, right?
Klepto Bigfoot.
Klepto Bigfoot.
Well, and then you and I have been, what I told you has been happening. Chuck knew about it. Tom knew about it, because that after it happened, I immediately texted y'all. It was just last week on Thursday, and then Sunday night of last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So somebody or something was trying to get in the house.
Yep.
And Will made a real good point on that, was the fact that, and I don't know why I didn't think about that. Will, my dog actually broke out of her kennel, my Belgian Malinois, and she was at the door and growling, jumping up and down, clawing at the door, and I woke up and I had my 357 in my hand and my spotlight, because I think I told you, Will, that I was all ready to hit him with the spotlight in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And then start firing center mass. Yeah.
Well, I know you weren't sure if it was.
My husband always did tell me.
You weren't sure if it was human or non-human. And I said, well.
But you made a point that I didn't think about.
Right.
Was why would the dog? She had her nose stuck in that door.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just going crazy, and yet the door was still shaking, and the doorknob was moving. So,
well, that's the point.
A human at that point in time, I think, would have had enough sense to have gone.
Yeah, I mean, if we were, because you were debating whether it was human or non-human, and I said, well, the fact that the dog is raising such a ruckus, if somebody was trying to break in, they're not going to break in on a dog. I almost guarantee that. So chances are it was your non-human guest.
Well, and they wouldn't want to tangle with Lagatha. So, and Jessica she woke up too, and she was literally sitting in there in her bedroom. She didn't come out because she wasn't sure. She didn't know what exactly was going on. But we talked about it the next day, and then it was all quiet. I mean, after that, all that happened, then I put Lagatha back up, and it got quiet. But I have no windows on the south side of this mobile home, so I can't up to that door. Mm-hmm. And the only one is past the door, and I wasn't going to go past the door.
I wouldn't either.
To look out that window, and you really can't. So I was like, no, I'm going to stand right here. And I had like I said, I had my spotlight ready, and I had my gun, and I was going to hit them in the eyes if they broke in, and then with the spotlight, and then start firing.
They were coming back for more beans.
Whether they were human or otherwise, they were in for it.
you realize they were coming back for another can of beans.
Yeah, I know. That's what Tom told me. He said, you didn't leave the can of beans out.
All right, Justin, what else have you got for us?
Okay, guys.
Sure. I don't know if Chuck or Doug have any comments on face-to-face encounters, or before we move on.
Oh, I got a story.
Sure.
First expedition I went on, I was down in the Big Thicket in the Sam Houston National Forest down in Texas, and I had a real close encounter one night while I was there on the expedition, and I basically I was laying in my truck, sleeping in my truck because I was stupid when I went down there for not taking warmer clothes and stuff like that. So anyway, I slept in my truck that night, and about 3:00 in the morning, I was awakened and couldn't figure out why I was awake. And I actually set up, my head was on the driver's side and my feet were on the passenger side of the pickup. And I leaned up and looked out the passenger window. And in the passenger window, I see a huge face, big eyes, great big huge eyes. And like Forrest's encounter with her friend, it didn't have a conical shape to it, but its face probably took up a big portion of my passenger side window, and it had a big snarl on his face. I actually saw canines on the sides of his mouth, and he looked like he was smiling at me. And he had great big huge eyes, a flat nose, and as I saw this thing, the first thing that went to my mind, I was brand new into the whole Bigfoot thing, and the first thing that came to my mind was, what am I going to do now? And the only thing that actually came to my mind was, I need to lay back down and act like I'm sleeping. And that's exactly what I did. And the whole time that was going on, I kept thinking, man, if he wants me, he's going to get me.
Chuck, you know why it was smiling,
because
don't
he
you?
was huge.
You know why it was smiling, don't you?
Oh yeah,
It was thinking. It was thinking Happy
now.
Meal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he probably would have been disappointed. But anyway, so I laid back down, and I laid there for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And I raised back up to see if he was still there, and he was gone. And the next morning, I found a blob of hair on my passenger side of the pickup that I have in my possession to this day in a baggie. But that's probably the closest I've ever been to one. I mean, he literally could have ripped my door off and taken me if he wanted me.
Yeah. I guess that's as close as you want to get, right?
Oh, don't want to get any closer than that.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing. I guess the baring of the teeth isn't necessarily a happy thing.
It's not.
I don't know if that's like a threatening expression.
Thanks to Forrest. Forrest, go into that detail if you don't mind.
Well, when they open their mouth and they give you that smile, that's actually an aggressive stance, and it's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you will see that in all primates, that open mouth, and then it looks like a smile, and they're not smiling at you. And people always say, "Oh, look at the cute chimpanzee, he's smiling." Well, the ones that are domesticated have learned that from humans, but in the wild, you would not do that. If a chimpanzee or even a gorilla smiled at you like that, and you smiled back, oh my Lord help you, because that to them is an act of aggression, and even looking straight in the eye is not good. You drop your head and you don't look, and you act submissive. Because trust me, you will be submissive, because they are far stronger and far more aggressive than humans even think about it. I mean, you've seen those alopecia chimpanzees, Will. I mean,
Right.
Any human would dream of having muscle structure like that.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
your bodybuilders would absolutely dream to look like that. These guys just grow like that. It's not because they were out there drinking protein drinks and drinking and working out with weights. They just grow that way.
Well, Justin, what else you got for us?
Well, thanks for the answers. First of all, that was really interesting. I have one more, I guess we can go with.
Sure.
Have there ever been any altercations with bears, between bears and Sasquatch?
There have been some reported ones. The one story, well, it wasn't an actual altercation, but it was close. There were a couple of guys who were fishing in Alaska, and as I recall, I think they were in a fairly narrow channel, but they were near the shore, and they saw a grizzly at the shoreline. They were afraid the grizzly was going to get on the boat because they'll swim out and get on boats sometimes. But then the bear suddenly took off running, and moments later, a Sasquatch appeared very close to where the bear was. Not a direct altercation, but certainly a hierarchical kind of position.
Right.
I mean, something that'll scare a grizzly away like
chain, kind of.
Yeah, something that'll scare a grizzly away like that is definitely higher on the food chain. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Have you
definitely.
guys heard of any stories like that with direct altercations?
Well, I heard a story on a podcast, and of course, you have to take some of these things with a grain of salt. I don't know. That a gentleman told about, and I think that he was a forest worker, a forestry worker of some sort, and I think he'd stopped to eat his lunch, and he actually saw a Bigfoot attack a mother bear with cubs, and of course the mother bear did her best to defend the cubs. I think it was actually going after the cubs, but a mother bear is just not going to idly sit by and let that happen. I don't care what you are. I've seen female black bears fight grizzlies, and it usually doesn't end up in the black bear's favor, and it didn't end up in her favor either. It actually killed her and then turned around and dispatched the cub. So that's probably one of the only stories I've ever heard about. So I think you've heard stories about them killing bears too.
Oh yeah. How about you, Chuck? Oh, let's see. Is he on mute?
I was.
Oh, there.
I haven't heard stories about that. I do remember seeing a pretty comical video on YouTube at one time where it was a video of a Bigfoot attacking I think it was a grizzly. It might have been a black bear. I'm not really sure. But, of course, you see that and you're thinking, yeah, somebody actually really filmed that. So, but it was actually a pretty good video. But as far as actually hearing stories like that, I haven't.
Alrighty. Well, I guess let me see. I think we're coming up on the end of our time. Do you have anything more, Justin, or? Oh, we didn't.
Okay. Did we lose Justin?
Justin? I don't know. Let me see here. Nope, he's there. Can you hear us, Justin?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Now we can hear you. Do you have anything?
Oh, sorry about that. I had to change my headphones.
Oh, okay. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon. Any final thoughts or comments or questions or?
That's all the questions from me today. Just thanks for the great answers. It's really interesting.
It was really awesome having you on, especially
Great to be on the show.
For both shows, for both Campfire Talk and then continuing on over for the Q&A. Forrest, how about you?
Thanks for having me on. It was a great time.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great questions, and I think we need to give Justin a shout out. Isn't he the one that did the great drawing of Bigfoot for you?
Yep, absolutely. Justin, how where should people find your book? And I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I guess some of the older thumbnails is, I think, the drawing you're talking about, Forrest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I did a couple of them for Will. Yeah. But I don't know if you want to check out my artwork on Instagram or Facebook. I do a lot of wildlife sketches and stuff. You might find it interesting. So
how can they
if you just
find
look up
stuff?
Justin Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, just Justin Mark artwork, and you should be able to find it.
Awesome.
If you just Google that, it'll bring them up. So,
David,
it's a shameless plug on my part.
His artwork is fabulous.
I'm sorry?
Your artwork is fabulous.
It is.
Oh, thanks very much. Thank you very much.
Do you do butts?
Oh.
I don't know. I've drawn a gorilla from like 3/4, if that counts.
Yeah, I'm only talking for somebody who wants to know.
Right.
It would be you.
Uh-huh. I could frame it and then mail it to you.
Oh, God.
David, how about you?
Well, I just wanted to say I appreciate Justin coming on. Enjoyed having you. Love your artwork, and come on back soon.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it'd be great to be back.
Chuck, did I ask you?
No. You left me out.
Uh-oh. What do you got for us, Chuck?
I was just going to say, I've been on your Facebook page, and man, you do amazing work. And thanks for coming on the show and asking the questions. And we enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Nice of you to say.
Yeah, Justin is a very talented artist. So everybody, go on Facebook or Instagram and check his work out. You'll really like it. Well, guys, that's it for this time. Thanks for sitting in Q&A with us, and send your questions to us, either at questions@creekdevil.com. And Tom, because of his illness, is, kind of hit or miss getting the questions. So if you also want to send them directly to me, it will at wjevning@gmail.com. We'll definitely have your questions on the Q&As. So thanks for sitting in, folks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.